Well, good morning, YouTube. I get over to the museum this morning to walk Flapjack and see what I see eating over there. And what about over here? There's a whole bunch of those kids over here this morning, just munching away on the grass. It's always nice to see wildlife. Well, we're going to go walk the dog the other direction so we don't bother them. Talk to you later. Well, hello, YouTube. I'm back again. It's later in the day, and they had to come back over here for something, so I thought I'd take advantage of the nice afternoon and the shade and finish up the video I started this morning. I started out with the elk, and it's always good to see elk. I always like that, but I figured I'd tag something on the end of that and then talk about a little something from the Wayback Machine. And a few weeks ago when I worked the car show, there was a Corvette over there that kind of reminded me of a story, and I've been banging it around in my head for a few days, and then I finally went on and found a picture of one that looked a lot like the one in question. So anyway, let me tell you my story. When I think I said before, I did a video about a car I used to have, and I had a 57 Chevy with a 327 Corvette built motor in it, and it was pretty quick. And you can go back and look at that video. There's actually a picture of one similar to mine, different color, but similar to what I had, and it tells you that story. This one's actually a different kind of story, but in my junior and senior year of high school, I was in a vocational ed program, and it was called ICE, Industrial Cooperative Education, and it was an auto mechanics program. And so I'd go to school until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'd go to work, and I'd work until both times to closing at where I worked at. My junior year, I actually worked at a gas station. And my senior year, I got a job at a car dealership, Chevrolet dealership. And initially, they put me into new car get ready, and then they thought I had potential, so they almost immediately moved me over to used car as a mechanic. And so when we get a trade-in car, we had a procedure we'd go through and a checklist that we'd go check a whole bunch of stuff on it, and we'd make an evaluation whether we thought the vehicle was worth keeping or whether it should go to auction. And of course, the managers made the decision, but if there was just a few things needed to it, then we'd go ahead and fix them. And so the difference there is, of course, we got to work on a lot of different things. And we got to make a little bit of decisions, and they kind of liked me. They thought I had potential, and they were going to work me there. And I was a 17-year-old kid, still in high school, and working as a mechanic at a dealership. Man, I was in tall cotton at that point. Well, every once in a while we'd hear about cars for sale or something that somebody wanted to get rid of, and of course that's how I got my 57 Chevy. But this is another kind of a story. It's the same kind of deal, but it's there was actually down in the southeast part of the Metro Phoenix area, there was an Air Force base. At the time it was called Williams Air Force Base. Now it's called Phoenix Mesa Gateway Airport, and it's a reliever airport for the Phoenix metro area. But anyway, back in those days it was an Air Force base, and we got word that there was a fighter pilot out there that had a Corvette that he'd blown the motor up on, and he was getting transferred out of the country, and he was wanting to get rid of it real bad. And he was practically ready to give the darn thing away. And so I thought, well, what the heck? You know, what 17-year-old kid wouldn't like to be driving around a Corvette? And I had a motor. I had the motor that was in my 57. It was a Corvette motor. And so I thought, well, maybe I ought to look into this. So I went out there, and I called the guy and went out there and met with him. And he took me and showed me the car, and it'd been sitting for probably, I don't know, better than 6 months, but turned out it was in 1965, and this would have been in 1967, probably late 67. And so it was pretty new car. And but he'd blown it up, and it was parked back behind the officers' quarters where he lived at, and there was a whole bunch of red brick buildings, military-style buildings, and it was parked back up underneath some trees, and you could tell it had been sitting there for a while. The grass was all grown up around it, and the trees had dripped sap all over it, and there was leaves all stuck to it. I don't remember what kind of trees they were, whether eucalyptus or chinaberry or something. But anyway, whatever it was, they dripped a lot of sap on this car, and it was bright, bright yellow at one point. But boy, it looked like heck sitting out there. But it was the it was a Corvette convertible, and I'm going to insert a picture of one that looks a lot like it. I'm going to put it in right here. Well, this car looked a lot like it, but it had the removable hardtop, which this one in the picture doesn't have. And but I looked at it and I thought, man, this thing got potential. It was a 327 4-speed car and had the turbine wheels on it. And like I say, it would have needed tires. It would have needed, obviously, a lot of elbow grease cleaning it up. But I wasn't worried about that. And I thought, man, I could pull that motor out of my 57 Chevy and put it in there and I'd be styling. So anyway, he didn't want very much money for it. I'm trying to remember the exact amount, but I'm wanting to say it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,500. And that was a lot of money for a kid back in those days, but I figured I'd figure out a way to do it. So I went back and I told him I'd see what I could do, and so I started trying to figure out a way to get the money. And of course, nobody wanted to loan money to a 17-year-old kid for a car that had a blown-up motor, and we weren't real wealthy people, so we didn't really have it. But the thing that sunk my ship on that was I went and checked into the insurance, and holy cow. 57 Chevys and stuff like that, they were considered family cars, but for insurance purposes back then. So you could have one that was pretty quick, but it still got insured as a family car, and the insurance was pretty reasonable. But the minute you got into sports cars as a teenager, man, the insurance rates went right straight through the roof. So to make a long story short, I never was able to put that deal together, and I don't know whatever happened to that car. I know he was getting sent to Air Force fighter pilot, and he was getting sent to Southeast Asia, and he wasn't real happy about that because he figured he was going to end up in Vietnam somewhere. And unfortunately, a few months later I got drafted, so I ended up going in the military as well. But I come pretty close at that time to buying myself a 65 Corvette convertible and putting my motor in it. If I could have figured out a way to swing it financially, I'd have done it, and who knows, I might still be driving that car to this day. But anyway, that's my story for this afternoon, and beautiful afternoon over here. It got up into the mid-70s today. It's the first part of November, and I'm sure it's going to start cooling down here pretty quick, but it's really nice right now. So it's late afternoon over here at the park. There's not a lot of people around. Good opportunity to sit down and talk to y'all. And so I'm just going to tell you, like I always do, to take care of each other and love each other. I'll come back to you again with another story. I've got another car story from the Wayback Machine I saw a picture of a car on YouTube, and it kind of reminded me of something that I did. But that's a story for another time, and that's kind of an interesting one as well. So, but for right now, I'm going to turn you around here, give you one look at my old truck while I find the button, and I'll tell you, I'll get back to you again real soon. So right now, peace out.